of the big questions that comes out in Tanzania is that this is the country which, if you look at Kenya, it has a quite different experience. Of course, it is at risk, but what we are seeing in Tanzania is what I would consider as some kind of a loose network of individuals and groups operating across different spectrums, of course, coming from different borders. And I think my starting, the question that I want to address first is, where does it come from? If you look at Tanzania, Tanzania borders several countries. So we have on the DRC, Burundi, you're most likely to have influence of ADF, so an ideology coming from ADF, the same ideology. If you go to the Kenya border, you're most likely to have the Al-Shabaab influence. At the same time, if you go to the Mozambique border, of course, it is questionable whether that is also Al-Shabaab or Islamic State. So Tanzania has this kind of fluid borders, which allows for interactions and of course also operation of groups operating in different countries, be it Kenya, be it DRC. And therefore you are most likely to find also at the same time different loose networks. And of course, I think one of the big questions we can answer whether they at some point also interact, but I think the evidence is you have networks coming from different angles, be it in the Lake Victoria where you have Kenya, Uganda. On the western part you have DRC, Burundi, the southern part where you have Mozambique. The other question that I would want to talk about is the question about, so speaking about this ideology, when can we start tracing it in Tanzania? Because evidence indicates that it started to infiltrate in the 1970s, then 1980s, more notably in the 1990s, and then recent development where we've seen local preachers having received training abroad, coming in and out. And of late, I think if I were to speak of the recent development, I would say this ideology has been more evident during the times of political religious tensions in the country. For instance, when we had the 1990s tensions leading to the 1995 general elections, and afterwards we saw the terrorist attack in Tanzania in 1998. Then we had some kind of, during the period in the 2000, we had a little bit of stability. But we saw also similar tensions during the period after the 2010 general elections. And afterwards, we saw several attacks in different locations within Tanzania. Tanga, Mwanza, some parts of Mtwara. And then of late, we're seeing some recent interactions with Mozambique. And therefore, you'd say tensions taking place, the religious political tensions have provided some kind of opportunity for the so-called, I was saying, a loose network of extremist groups in the country to operate more evidently. And I was, just like I was saying, we saw the tensions after general election in 1995, then the 2010 general elections. And the third question that I want to talk about is, so there's this question, so how has this ideology recently been sustained? And there's a lot that we can talk about here. Now, research has indicated that criminality in several parts has become an important source of income sustaining this ideology. More notably, for instance, if you go to the areas where we had recent tensions, Tanga, Mwanza, there is evidence at the local level indicating that there were several instances of criminality. The robbery in the mobile money shops, some case of robbery of banks in the areas near the Salaam Point region. We have what's also, in some other areas, you go to a local shop where someone complains that you woke up at night and they even had come and some of them stealing even bread. So that has become a very important way in which case this has been sustained recently. But the other important element that is sustaining this network of late, we're seeing some kind of shift from this network operating within established religious institutions, mosques, madrasa, but moving more into family networks that have become very important. In fact, you go to the local setting, someone saying, oh, someone came over here, stayed for a month, then went away. And to me, this is a very important defining moment that we need to look at, because there is always a strong focus on the religious institutions. And I think this is where the states have also drawn attention to. But at least the recent development as that does indicate that actually these networks are operating, the family networks are operating within the country and outside the country. You could be having someone who has been kind of recruited by a mother, a father. You see a mother taking her daughter to a cell to be mailed to someone that she knows is in the network. So family networks have become quite important. And I think this also poses some challenge on the way in which you be dealing with this problem, because when it takes place at the family level, therefore dealing with it, because this is some kind of it operates in some kind of an organic system, which is so difficult to deal with. And the last question that I want to address is, so what is the role of the region in this respect? And more specifically, if you talk of religion, in the areas along the coast of Tanzania, I remember one of the research we did, we were asking ourselves, so what is the source of resilience in these areas? Islamic religion has, over time, in the areas along the coast, being the source of resilience to the local communities. It used to be an institution that would connect the local people to the government. It used to be an institution which provides solution to the local problems at the local level. However, in the areas where this ideology is spreading, we are seeing the role of Islam as a source of resilience being significantly compromised, in the sense that the spread of this ideology is creating some kind of what I would consider tensions within Islam. And therefore, the role of Islam as a source of resilience in these areas has kind of been compromised. And therefore, you are most, for instance, this time around, you are likely to go to a village and find 3-4 mosques existing along each other. And the leaders of these mosques don't even talk to each other. They are in some kind of tensions. And at the same time, because of these tensions, you are seeing some mushrooming of mosques belonging to different, of course, run by different individuals, some of whom are kind of accused of being involved into the spread of the ideology. So this ideology, it comes with negative repercussion on the part of Islamic religion as a key element that used to provide resilience to the local communities. But the last point that I need to talk about is more significantly, Hassan mentioned the Aburogo, and I think it's important also to mention here that Aburogo, his influence is quite pronounced in so many areas across Tanzania. I remember in one of the areas I went to do a research, talking to the youth, they were making reference to Aburogo, not as an individual, they were saying Rogo institution. And to my surprise, many of them were unaware that Rogo actually passed on some close to 8 years ago. They were saying Rogo institution and our leader is in Mombasa, he's such a nice, so you could just imagine the extent to which the ideas flow across the border, that Rogo is in Mombasa, but he manages to draw so many followers, I mean, in different other countries. And I think also you could talk about in Mozambique, that these prominent leaders are promoting the ideology, operating different spectrums across different countries. They become so prominent, and you won't ignore the importance of technology as a very important tool as I mean, in terms of spreading this ideology in the Eastern African region. Let me end up here. Thanks.